Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we will honor everyone's time because we want to make sure and make the most of your time and honor that. So we'll go ahead and get started. It's about it's 4 after now. We are recording. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here tonight to talk about parenting. Yes, the ancient art of parenting that everyone who's ever had a child, bonus child, grandchild, nephew, niece, kid down the street, we have all mastered, right? We are the perfect parents. That's why we're all, Kelly's like, yep, got it. Yep, I'm the perfect bonus parent, perfect fur parent, right? So we are going to dive in tonight and provide a bit of a different paradigm shift, I should say. And really what has come out of this is we are big. So many of you are familiar with our content entitled The Masculine Voyage and entitled The Feminine Voyage, and identifying different stages of life for both the masculine and feminine. Well, tonight I'm going to release for the first time the stages of parenting. The 6 stages as I have identified. Now, what I will share with you all is that these are what I have identified. So, and we like to treat these workshops as conversations. So if there are questions as we move through, or please raise your hand. Paige will be, and by the way, this is Paige Stewart. Those of you, I think everybody knows Paige Stewart, my wonderful partner in life and love and all the things, and she'll be supporting us tonight. So, and if you have questions and you want to get them out of you because you'll forget, throw them in the chat and Paige will monitor those. So we'll keep an eye on that as we move through. We're also going to dive into a few other brand new tidbits. So tonight's content, for those of you that are very familiar with Daring Deeply, this is brand new stuff. So we're really super excited about diving into parenting. Not an area that we often dig into, and yet it affects nearly everyone in some capacity. Again, whether we have, and I use the phrase bonus parents, bonus kids. We tend to want to leave behind the word step because it has so much negative connotation to it. Step kids, stepmom, step monster. So hello, John. Welcome in. Katie, welcome in. Cool. We have a dude. We got a dude. What's up, brother? You can come off and mute. We just need to hear the masculine voice for just a moment.
Hey guys.
There you
go. Hey Paige. Everybody.
This is my friend and fellow coach. That's right. That's what I'm calling you. Because by the way, I just have to say this. This is exciting. John just did something that David Lee did on June 2nd, 2020. He quit his corporate job and is becoming a coach. Yeah. So he is officially crazy. Oh, I mean, yeah. Right, John? You're officially entered the craziness.
And ambitious, yes.
There you go. Crazy and ambitious. Are you a Celtics fan? Really?
Oh, yes. Boston across the board. I was born in Massachusetts. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. And you're in New York now.
Right.
So that's got to be difficult because I know how much those two towns like each other.
Because we just dominate. So yeah, it's hard for them. But
it's hard for them, right? Exactly. So welcome in, John. I'm paying especially more attention to John. So write letters. I don't care. Write letters. So it's great to have John here. And it's great to have Katie Chatfield. I know that she is traveling, so she's being safe. So she's off camera for right now, but I know that she's here with us. So, and I know we're going to have a few others trickle in. So back to the lecture at hand. To quote a hip hop song from the 80s or 90s. Back to the lecture. Anyway, we're going to talk about parenting tonight. We're going to talk about the 6 stages of parenting. We're going to talk about some of the language that sometimes gets us in trouble, whether they are 3 years old or whether they're 35 years old. And let me reassure you that this workshop is for everyone, right? So even if you have not chosen to, or you don't have kids, fantastic. It's okay. If you have bonus children, if you've got people, if you've got young people, if you've got anyone with whom you have influence, which basically is everybody, But there's some universal tenets that we're going to move through tonight that I believe can really provide us a new perspective, a new understanding when it comes to parenting. So are we on board? Are we ready to go? Yes. Let me see thumbs up. Yes. Good. Okay, cool. All right. Anything I'm missing, Paige? Are we good? I always have to check with. Okay. Very cool. All right. I'm going to share my screen and I love saying this. Ladies and gentlemen, I can share my screen. Fantastic. All right. So elevated parenting. We love that word, elevated parenting. Because, and those of you that are very familiar with Daring Deeply and what we want to provide the world, quite frankly, is an elevated way of living, viewing, crashing into paradigms, creating new paradigms, demystifying things that have been mystifying, debunking myths of life, leadership, relationships. And so tonight we want to bring forth the idea of elevated parenting. Taking this idea that, oh, how do you become a parent? Well, there's a pretty simple way in which that happens. And we're not going to talk about that biological thing tonight, although we have. But that's certainly one way. There's also many other ways, adoptions and fostering and bonus and all of that. But tonight we're going to, as it says on the screen, bring in a new paradigm to traditional patterns of parenting by mentoring, leading, and supporting children of all ages in a healthy, elevated way. There's a good mouthful. So let's jump in, shall we? Oh, and by the way, if you have your journals and pens, please have them out. And what we've recognized too is taking notes can be incredibly powerful, so you can refer back to them. And there's also a lot of scientific data that says when it goes from here to here to here onto the paper, it sinks in. We retain it so much better. So I invite you to come and join us in that. All right. So we're going to popcorn, as we often do on these workshops. Very quickly, you can come off of mute. And I would love to hear a couple of you, or maybe all of you, would like to share. Why are you here? Why are you here? Why have you chosen to spend 90 minutes with us during spring break for some of us, right? St. Patrick's Day, March Madness begins this week for those of us that are sports fans. So why are you here? Who would like to come off of mute and say, this is why I'm here, David. This is why I'm here. I see Sean off, or maybe is she frozen?
Oh,
Uh-oh.
I didn't even know I was off. I was just being quiet.
That's okay. now that I called you out.
Okay. Well, I have 3 children. I am an empty nester, but you're always parenting at different stages of their lives. So I'm always interested in leaning in, growing. Looking
Awesome.
for a deeper connection with my children at all times.
Love that. Love that. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. Who else?
And now you mute me, Paige.
I didn't hear what she said. That's okay.
I can share.
Absolutely.
I have 2 kiddos and am recently divorced, so I think it's incredibly important to always be unlearning things for myself as well as how I'm raising them. So it's probably more important than ever to be here. Plus,
Thank you,
I love
Katie.
your content.
Oh, thank you, Katie. I appreciate that. I want to make sure that I heard you correctly, because I think this is really, really an important point. Did y'all hear what she said? Unlearning. I think that's what she said. Is that right, Katie?
Yes. I'm
Ah,
constantly unlearning.
Unlearning. I like that. Okay. Unlearning. And we spend a lot of time here at Daring Deeply talking about patterns in which we want to interrupt, in which we want to steer in a different direction. So it's beautiful. Thank you, Katie. Let's take one more. Why are you here? Why are you here?
I'll share.
Please, Kelly.
So I'm a bonus mom of a 19-year-old and 24-year-old daughters, and I don't have any kids of my own. And kind of what Katie said about the unlearning part, when Dan and I got married and we had the opportunity for one of his daughters to move in with us full time, all of her stuff and my stuff just collided like oil and water in the worst possible ways. And so for me, it's definitely about unlearning. It's about, with since October and coming in with Daring Deeply and Mastermind and serious interruption of my own patterns and growth and perspective changing so much. I need all the different perspective that I can possibly soak up when it comes to parenting, because sometimes I nail it and sometimes I flat out suck at it and say everything the wrong way, and have even paid forward some of the damage that was done to me by my parents. So for me, it's definitely about getting that outside perspective that isn't my husband's, that's healthy, that's that I can infuse now into what are not children anymore, small children. They're young women, and repair some damage and put a new outlook, fresh outlook on an existing relationship, to where I can come to the table and bring more than just I'm sorry I screwed up and I don't totally understand why. I think they're both old enough to know that they have stuff. They have stuff to work through. I have stuff to work through. All three of us have trauma. How can we have the most healthy relationships amongst the three of us and within our family in the midst of all that? So yeah, I'm certainly open to learning. So now couldn't be a better time for there to be that type of instruction.
Love it. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. I love the vulnerability, saying, you know what? I don't know it all, and I made mistakes, and I've done it well, and I'm here to learn. I love that. Love the curiosity. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. So next. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it. Let's fill the airways. What is, again, we'll popcorn, right? So I'll give you a few moments as I'm chattering away here. Your experience. What's the best parenting advice you've ever received? And what's the worst parenting advice you've ever received? What's the best parenting advice? And by the way, for some of us, it may be the same thing. Like, well, it was the best at one point and then it became the worst, or I thought I put it into. So I'm going to invite you to think back, or it may have been something that was said today or last week, or maybe it was said to you for those of you that are parents, right? What was told to you in those early months of pregnancy and whatnot. So best parenting advice, worst parenting advice. Let's hear it. What do you got?
I have a best that's worked pretty well, which is follow through. If you say something, make sure that you do it. Like, empty threats do not work, and that is 100% true.
Do you have an example?
Oh, well, like when they were little, if one of them was saying, Matt, I want this, like, if you say that again, we're leaving the restaurant. And they said, Matt, I want this. And we got up and left the restaurant in the middle of dinner. And it was very productive. It cut out the Matt next time. Or whatever they were complaining about. I don't even really remember. But if you say the next time you do such and such, I'm going to do such and such, go ahead and do it.
Yep. It's really good stuff. Really good. Who else? Best, worst?
Allow your kids to mess up.
Allow your kids to mess up. We're going to talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do
Absolutely.
everything for them.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Hello, Martha Allen. Good to see you. Welcome on in. We are right now, Martha, we are going through the best parenting advice that you've ever received or the worst. So I'll give you a few moments to consider that. We're just popcorning around the room. Who else? So I heard follow through. Don't make empty threats or make empty promises, depending on how you look at it. Right. And I just forgot what Shauna said. Boy, wow. Help me remember, Shauna, as you're eating.
Allow your kids to mess up.
Thank you. Allow your kids to fail. Absolutely. Fail forward. Absolutely. Thank you. Who else? Who else? Best parenting advice? Worst parenting advice? What do
So
you
is
think?
this, so are you referring to our own parenting advice in general?
In general, whatever, however you would like to answer that, Martha.
Okay, so here, I don't know if this is the best or the worst, but it's the one that stuck in my head, advice that my mother gave me whenever I'd go out on a date. And I never knew what it meant until years later. But as I would be at the door, she would say, if you can't be good, be careful. And I thought that's really good advice if I knew what that meant. But so she told me, if I can't be good, be careful.
Oh, I feel like I could have a workshop on that phrase alone, where it's caused so much trauma. Oh, Martha Allen, you always bring the noise, my friend. Well played. Well played. Yeah, there we go. She's raising the roof. Here we go. Good stuff. All right, let's take one more. Let's take one more, and then we're gonna dive in. Worst, best parenting advice you've ever heard, received, maybe said. Maybe you've changed your mind. Maybe that's what you said once upon a time. You're like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. I also want to recognize Chrissy. Chrissy is in the house. Good to see you, Chrissy. If you're able to turn on your camera, we'd love to see you. John, you came off mute, my friend. That's
I
a
did,
dangerous thing to do on Zoom.
Sure.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
The best parenting advice that I received is to be vulnerable. Let your kids see you fail, right? Let them fail, like someone else has said is a good one. And also don't be afraid to let them see you trip up.
Yeah, that's fantastic and a tough one.
And I'll say the worst was, I don't know if this is parenting advice or just something my father used to say to me if I was starting to get upset when I was younger, but are you a man or are you a mouse? So that was one that stuck with me. Yeah.
Yeah. We won't have the time to get into masculine and feminine polarity and energy tonight, but and shaming. And again, no offense to Dad, but yeah, that's yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't repeat that one. Yeah. No,
that's the worst. Don't take that one on. Anyone, by the way, grow up in a house where you never heard a parent apologize? Anyone? Yeah. Yep. Because apologies can say what to someone? You don't have to necessarily answer it. Can say what, right? It can exhibit weakness, right? Because there happens to be, and we're going to talk about this, I think, on one of the next slides here. We're going to talk about this idea of who has leverage, right? And when we start talking about parent-child relationships, it's going to become even more evident. All right, let's move on. By the way, anybody have a teacher that looked like this person? Anybody have a teacher like this? I know I had a little trauma even putting this picture on here. I'm like, Yeah, we have a couple of teachers on the call right now. You're like, All right, let's move on. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to also, what I didn't pre-frame in our introduction is to share with you 3 styles of parenting that I've identified, okay? Which goes back to what we were just talking about. The first one is what we call parent focused. This is when we can start to take notes if you're open to that. Okay. Has anyone ever heard the phrase children are to be seen, not heard? Anyone ever hear that? Uh-huh. Yeah, right. This is really more of an, I say ancient, but certainly more of an old school, and still exists, especially culturally. We will see this. What a parent-focused style of parenting creates an authoritarian bond, lacking intimacy, connection, and love between parent and child. Parent is in charge. There are no questions. You do not resist the authority. It's their way or the highway, right? And it creates a very, 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 very lacking bond between parent and child. In fact, we were just talking about this with some clients this past week. This creates what we refer to as a contractual relationship. A contractual relationship means if I do, then you will. Okay, that's a contract, contractual. Okay, we won't dive deep into that. But essentially, that's what it is. Okay, it says if I perform a certain way, because that's the way my dad wants me to, then he'll give me this. That's a contract. It's not a covenant. Okay. A covenant is I will love you even when you don't love me back. And again, we won't dive deep into that, but there are two distinctive types of relationships. One is a contract and one is called a covenant. Covenant is based on, and we're going to get there in just a minute. So I'm going to hold off on that. Okay. All right. Number two, the child-centered focus style of parenting, where the adult parents define their own purpose by the actions, behaviors, activities, and futures of their children. Okay. Anybody ever experienced this, either as a child or as a parent? Let's see. It's okay. We all have made mistakes. No one? Really? Oh, sure. Okay. All right. Paige, thank you, dear. Thank you. Yes, we have seen this most especially. And what's interesting is generations will swing back and forth, right? Where we will see this for a generation. I know that my experience as a parent, and just to let you, those of you that don't know, I have 3 almost adult children, and going through the time that I was when my children were young as a parent, there was an enormous amount of child-centered focused parenting, where if you were to look at the checkbook, back when there were checkbooks, if you were to look at the bank account or the calendar of said parent, most of what was going on had to do with the children, right? To where, in fact, I've said this jokingly to several of my peers. It's been some time before I was doing this. And I fully admit this was pretty snarky when I did it. So hello. Is they would say, oh no, you know what? I can't meet with you on Thursday. We have a soccer tournament. I said, oh, you're playing soccer now? And they would look back at me and go, no, my kids are. Oh, I thought you said you have a soccer tournament. This gets a little dicey, and it's going to really be fleshed out as we move through the stages of parenting. But essentially what a child-centered focused style of parenting, it creates a codependent bond between child and parent, and thusly creates codependent adult children, and the cycle continues. Okay. So I'm often asked this question. So what's the balance? What's the harmony? How much do you invest in your children, right? You want to see them flourish, right? You want to have them involved, but how much is too much? We're going to dive into that and really have some pointed conversation around that a little later. And then number 3, the one that I would call ideal and really what we are working toward, is a relationship focused style of parenting, where we have powerful grounding effects of mentorship, leadership, humility, boundaries, interdependence, guidance, wisdom, healing, living the example. Pop quiz. Are you ready? Children are more influenced by what you say or what you do. You can just mouth the words. Yeah. Yeah. Boy, did I learn that as a child, and boy, did I learn that as a parent. I was like, why are they watching me do that? Why don't they just listen? Or as my dad would jokingly say, God bless him. God bless him. He's been gone 5 years and I just love him to death. He said, do as I say, not as I do. Have you heard this one? Right? Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah. What a relationship-focused style of parenting does, it creates a synergistic bond founded on mutual honor, respect, trust, and love. Because the reality, ladies and gentlemen, is that parent and children are two independent entities, humans, spirits, and souls, and are worthy of a synergistic bond. Okay. Which is really, 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 really difficult to master. Okay. Next slide. All right. I want to provide a little bit of context of when we say things as parents, or you hear things from parents, okay? When you say or live like this is essentially what the child feels. Okay, so we're gonna go back and forth here. Have you ever heard this or said this? It's okay. It's all right. Anybody ever heard this? We'll just start there. It's like, I'm not raising my hand. I don't know where he's going. Okay. Yes, anybody ever heard this? I want to see show of hands. Anyone? Yeah. My kids are my everything. I hear and see this all the time. All the time. When we say my kids are everything, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the child feels. I'm responsible for my parent feeling loved and valued. It is an enormous amount of responsibility when a child hears that they are their parents' everything. Okay. When we say my kids come first, I hear this a lot. And by the way, we work with a lot of folks who have bonus kids, okay, maybe blending kids together. And the question that I receive a lot is, so what happens now? Does my new partner come first, right? Or do my children still come first? I'm not going to answer that question, maybe a little later, okay? But essentially when we say my kids come first, this is what the child feels. I have to be worthy of what my dad expects of me. And, or I wonder where mom fits into dad's life. Because again, if we say my kids come first before, and in a family, a quote, nuclear or traditional family, right? If mom says my kids come first, where's her husband lie? Right? Now, this is different when there's divorce involved, when there's separation, when with different circumstances, but it's really, really important. And I've always believed this, and I want you to take this quote. This just came to me intuitively, so I'm going to share it with you. And I truly feel this. I'm going to unpack it a little bit more in just a moment. The greatest thing that a father can do for his children is to love their mother. Now, when we have divorce, when we have separation, when we have families that have chosen, a couple that has chosen to complete a relationship, as we say, okay, I still believe that quote is true. We can love a former spouse and not be in love, but we can certainly do it with honor and respect and gratitude. This is hard. Take it from me. John's like, yeah, I'm eating, I'm chomping, and it's hard, and I'm shaking my head. Yeah. It can be really, really difficult, especially in a tumultuous completion of a relationship. The greatest thing that a father can do for his children is to love their mother, honor their mother, respect their mother, however you want to say, okay? Because they're watching, remember, they get more out of what you are doing than what you're saying. Next, I'm waiting for my kids to get older or leave the house. What they feel? Simply by being here, I'm keeping my mom from realizing her own hopes and dreams. Too often, parents get wrapped up in this idea of either or. And what we consistently teach and coach this here at Daring Deeply. It is yes and, not either or. Yes, I have children and they are so, so incredibly important. And I'm mentoring and I'm guiding and I'm directing them. And I have my own damn life. Right. Which, by the way, I have this something that my oldest, she's 21 now. I can't believe it. She's 21. I have a 21-year-old, y'all. She told me when she was about 13 or 14 years old. She goes, Dad, it was scary because this is what she said. Dad, I've been watching you. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. All right. Now, what did she catch me doing? She said, I've been watching that you are living your life, that you travel, that you date, that you're doing your thing and you're doing hobbies and all of this. And she said, I just think that's amazing that we are not your primary focus. This is a 14-year-old girl, right? And those of you know Grayson, and she's pretty remarkable. She's 10 times her father. But I've never forgotten that. I'm like, yeah, that's the way I want to live. I want to be an example to my children that they're not the only thing in my life. They're important. Oh my gosh, they're so important, but they're not the only thing. Next, I'm spending my extra money on kids. What they hear, I better make sure the money my dad spends on me is worth it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you seeing the common thread here running through these? Okay. An enormous amount of pressure is placed on children when they are told that they are the number one thing. I'm not even going into the idea of, oh, it creates a child who is obviously dependent, right? A spoiled child, as we used to say. Do we even say spoiled anymore? I don't hear people say spoiled, right? Who are children who feel deserved of all, right? Because they have made to feel that they have deserved and received all. And lastly, I never miss a game, performance, or activity for my kids. I heard this last night on American Idol as I was watching. Okay. Now, this may sound incredibly supportive. However, what the child can feel is, I can't quit because my mom depends on what I do. Again, it's important for the child to be supported. I'm not saying that you don't go to activities or you don't go to every grandchild's activity, right? Right. But it's really important for the child to understand, you know what? Mom and dad, they have a life too. And it doesn't mean just because they're not here, doesn't mean that they don't love me. And that's all supported and grounded in the relationship. And we're going to move through that in just a moment. Okay. All right. So we're going to get to it. Let me pause there for a moment. Let's pause. Questions, thoughts on this first part before we jump into these 6 stages and really dive in. Any thoughts? I'm open to it. Conversations, questions, feedback. Cool. I'm not going to wait the standard 7 seconds that a teacher should and have all that silence. So we will move on. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, the 6 stages of parenting as I see it. Now, again, this is from our perspective. All right. So there may be some things like, wait a minute, what about this? And what about this? Hey, absolutely. This is certainly from our perspective and what we want to provide as wisdom and experience. Okay. So as we see it from age 0 to 10, we call this stage of parenting the protector. Because quite frankly, if you're not there to protect them, they probably won't survive, literally. Okay. But during this stage, you are the parent is the primary caretaker, providing the needs for the child. Maslow's hierarchy, food, water, shelter, all of that. But even more so as they get a little older, security, consistency, safety. Okay. Important to note here, ladies and gentlemen, consistency during this time is paramount. Okay. And when I'm saying consistency, I'm saying emotional consistency, not necessarily you're living in the same space, although that can be productive and really healthy, right? But there is a consistency we've talked about. I can't remember what workshop we were talking about consistency. Was it codependency? I think it was. A key component to codependency is a lack of consistency. Okay. But consistency for a child during this time is paramount. In this stage, the parent serves as the primary conduit to the world and the primary resource for the child, providing education, insight, and example. During this time, the parent is the primary conduit, meaning the world comes through the parent generally. The child is getting all the information about the world through the parent. And we can really consider like, yeah, I get it. This is why the child between ages 11 and 10 love us, because we're giving them everything and they love hanging out with us. And then around 10, 11, or 12, they're gone. They're like, no, I don't know. You're gross. Yuck. We'll get there in a moment. Right? Oh, this is such a wonderful age for us parents because our kids actually like us and they want to spend time with us. And they're like, yeah, I got things to do. I'm out. Which is why this stage and the protection that it provides in this. And again, we won't go deep into this, but this is so important, especially for children who identify as feminine. Protection is paramount during this time because that girl will grow into a woman, and protection, safety, and security is so important. Okay. And again, your child is much more influenced by what you do rather than what you say at this stage. And really all the way that they're watching. Oh, they're watching. Anyone join me here? I'd love to see a show of hands. Our children are much smarter than we give them credit for. Yes? And things were like, oh no, they didn't see that. Oh, they didn't hear that. They didn't hear us fight. They didn't hear us have a conversation about money. They didn't hear us having sex in the next room. Oh, yes, they did. Oh, yes, they did. Right? And they're probably, or they're learning, right? Yeah. So what's important about this is some of us are beyond this stage. Some of us actually may have grandchildren in this stage, right? You can still encourage, support your children with their children, right? Or certainly as a grandparent to provide what they need here in this role, okay? Same is true with bonus kids, okay? Other kids in your lives, neighbor kids, nephews, nieces, okay? And I highly encourage you to take this information and share it with others as well. We love that. Okay, next. Ages 11 through 13. Here's the teacher. And we have teachers on the call. You're like, yay, we're going to teach. Okay. Transitioning through representing yourself as the primary influence. This is where a lot of parents really struggle. Really struggle. Because they're like, wait a minute, my kids are interested in other adults other than me. Where's my role now? What do I do? It's super important as the parent to support other trusted impact leaders into your children's life. Introducing them to mentors, coaches, teachers, okay, that will serve as co-supporters to your teaching. There's a lot of teaching that goes on because they have really important questions and they still like you enough to come to you first if they feel safe and secure in the first stage of protector. Okay. How many of us had a very uncomfortable conversation about sex with our parents? Anyone? Am I the only one? Okay. All right. If you didn't, praise Jesus. Okay. I know I did. And it was because I didn't feel safe and secure in that protector stage. And so when we got to puberty and I had all these questions, I wasn't going to go necessarily to my parents. Okay, I wasn't going to go to my parents. I was literally sat down on a Saturday afternoon at the kitchen table and Dad told me something. I was in shock. I was like, I think he said penis. I think he said vagina, which I never heard him say those words other than that. I think I might have heard stuff. I don't know. I might have got a semen. I might have got a sperm. I'm not sure, but it was weird. It was just bizarre because in the protector stage, I didn't feel that true sense of, and I really, I want to make sure that I'm very clear about this. My dad was an extraordinary man and he was challenged as a dad, right? And I honor and respect him so much. In fact, we have a better relationship now, and he's been gone for 5 years. A lot of work that I certainly have wanted to dive into and have done. You're providing wisdom. Again, this is a really powerful stage for feminine and masculine. Okay, because they have a lot of questions. And ideally, they're coming to you for those answers. Okay. All right. Oh, I wanted to tell the story. I saw it on my notes right here in front of us, so I wouldn't forget. Something that has been, I feel, has been lost certainly in the quote American culture is this idea of rites of passage, right? In so many other cultures, Native American cultures and such, had rites of passage, actual ceremonies, right? Where children would grow into quote adulthood during this time. I read something somewhere when my children were still young, and I made a decision that when each of them would turn 13, I would provide them an opportunity to spend time with 5 other trusted adults with whom they chose. And so I came to them months before their 13th birthday, each of them, and I said, hey, who would you love to spend a day with? It might have been an aunt, might have been an uncle, might have been a family friend, might have been grandpa, but they each chose someone in which to spend an entire day or even a weekend. And I reached out to those adults and said, would you be open to providing some support as this particular child is entering their 13th year? And oh my gosh, it was such the amazing thing. In fact, my middle child, Jaden, was big into space when he was 12 and 13 years old. Well, it just so happened that my brother-in-law was big into space and actually put Jaden on a plane and took him to Cape Canaveral for a weekend. And they got to see a rocket take off. I mean, I was just like, he will never forget. He still talks about that. He's 19 now, right? But what that provided, what I wanted to provide those children, my children, is a mark, a rite of passage, is to have them. And my instructions to the adults were simply this: show them what it was like perhaps when you were 13. What would you have wanted to know at 13? And extol that wisdom and experience for my kids. And it was just an extraordinary experience for those kids. So if those days are behind you, perhaps, maybe, right? Or maybe they're right in front of you, right? Is to have a type of rite of passage. It's really, really super important for them to feel like I'm moving through something. This is really, really cool. Okay. These are fun years. These are the teenage years. And what we will say here is this is the shaper. You are the shaper. You're shaping. You're actually reducing moms, dads, bonus moms, dads, aunts, uncles, mentors. You're reducing the all present connection you have with your child. This is when moms lose their sons. Oh my gosh, he'll never be my little boy again. And quite frankly, he doesn't want you to be. He's like, Mom, I don't need you to be coming into the bathroom anymore. Okay, cool. Right, but the all present connection, right, lessens here. Because if we have done the work in the prior stages, that there's a level of trust and protection and provision and security and safety. And this is what Shauna was alluding to earlier. Friends, they need the space to breathe, stretch, fail, and identify their own presence and purpose in life without you. I'm going to say that again, without you. Doesn't mean you're abandoning them. Okay, you're not sending them off to boarding school. I mean, I guess you could. That's fine. Okay. And I love this. This is actually inspired by a song. Is it called Banks, Paige? Or is it called The River? Banks? It's called, yeah. I would encourage you to look up this song. It's called Banks by, I'll have to look it up, maybe, yeah, Paige, if you can, yeah. But the shaper supports their child as the banks of the river support the water. You're not there to dam up the water. Okay. You're not there to do this to the water. You're there to provide the boundary at this time, because that river, let me tell you, friends, that river is roaring. Can I get an amen? Okay. Those of us who have had teenagers in our home, holy shit, we're not sure what comes out of that room. I don't care if the boy, girl, trans, whatever. Holy cow, some stuff's coming out. And we probably remember when it was us, and our parents just didn't understand, as Will Smith once said. We are allowing for free flow, variance, support, and boundaries. We are shaping, helping to shape the future, not dictate. This is important. That's why it's called shaping. Okay. All right. Next, we're getting there. Next is a leader. This is when they are craving, absolutely craving the leadership of the parent, often from afar, because the child has now exited, in most cases, their childhood home and enters the workforce or university, higher education, and they're looking to the parent to support them in leading themselves through life's complex lessons of, there's that word, adulting. And they really want to be an adult at this time. They really do. At the same time, they want to be a kid too. They're like, oh, this shit's much harder than I anticipated. Can I come back home? And you're like, oh no, here we go. My mom warned me of this. And by the way, it's okay for them to have those ebbs and flows because they really want to be adults. They're out there. They're on their own. They're developing their own independence. And I love this last line here. And thank you, Paige, for adding to this. This is beautifully written. The leader will identify and implement a harmonious presence with their child, not to smother while not abandoning. This is challenging. It's like, oh, and I get this question from time to time is, well, how do I know? I don't want to smother them at the same time. I don't want them to think that I left them. We have to trust them at this stage, friends, that they will tell us. We are there. We are there. I often say this to my kids. I'm here. I'm here. I got you. Okay. And I'm not going to read your mind. I got to know. Okay. This is the leader stage. And we're almost there. We're almost there. Age 23 to 35. This is when the parent is parenting the adult child and becomes the confidant. As a child becomes increasingly independent and crafts their own life, career, committed partnership, marriage, having their own children, they desire the guidance and deep friendship. It's important, friendship that an elevated parent will provide. The parent provides wisdom and advisement and companionship as their close confidant confidant during this stage. If we are doing our work in the prior stages, they no longer want us to do everything for them. They want their independence. They want to be driving their own life. And they so want you there. So, Dad, what do you think about this investment? What do you think about buying this house? What do you think about this girl? What do you think about it? We're getting ready to have our first kid. What did you do when, yeah. The adult child receives the confidant through a deeply trusting connection, one that involves a boundaried presence. And I can say that about all of these. We won't necessarily get deep into boundaries, but oh my goodness, boundaries is bathed all over this elevated idea of parenting. We have got to know where we begin and our child begins and ends. Okay. All right. And then finally, the sage, and those of you that are familiar with our masculine and feminine voyage, you will recognize this. This is a through thread that when our adult children become adults, middle-aged adults, right, and so on, the child becomes a full-fledged adult with a life of their own. The parent provides the necessary wisdom, insight, and experience for the child to continue to heal, grow, and thrive. All right. I'm going to pause here. News flash. I want to see everybody's eyes, if I can see your eyes. By the way, hi, Courtney. Good to have you on here. I haven't ignored you, I promise. Okay, I have. It's good to see you. News flash, ladies and gentlemen. Your children have been hurt. Your children have trauma. Okay. Now, is it based on some of the decisions that you have made? Perhaps. And this is not the environment to say, oh, I can't believe I put my children through that. This is their healing to do. And when you are healing as an adult, as the parent, you are still providing them an example to heal as well. You can heal together. And oftentimes this is the stage in which that happens, because the maturity level and the experience and the time has passed to where your adult child will come to you and say, you know what? When you left mom, that was awful. And I was hurt and I never told you about this. And this is why I did this, this, and this, and this. And I would like to talk about it. I was blessed and honored, and in some ways, by a conversation that I had with my aforementioned son 2 years ago, when he came to me with this and let into me, oh my gosh, I'm this way because of you, because of what you did, and a 25-minute tirade, blaming me for some of the things that he's done as then a 17-year-old. And I simply received him. And it was effing hard, let me tell you. Holy cow, to sit there and just take it. Because what did I want to do? My parts, okay, my wounded self, my traumatized space, wanted to lash back out and say, don't you dare blame me for blah, 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 blah. But that would have not provided any type of support for him. I am honored and blessed to know that that happened then, and that we don't necessarily, it's not to say he's not going to do it in another 17 years when he's got kids and come back. Oh, and another thing, Dad, I never told you this when I was 17. It's probably going to happen. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's super important to understand and to allow yourself to extend yourself the grace necessary to know it's okay that you made choices as a young parent that did not seek the best support for your child. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And if you have never heard that until tonight, let me provide that for you. Okay. I have spent a long time swilling in my own shame for leaving my children's mom. And I've done a lot of work to release that. I left because I had to, right? And I've had those conversations with my children. And there are some of them that are still trying to figure out if that makes sense to them, and that's okay. If you are doing the inner healing work, of which what we do here at Daring Deeply, by the way, is we help provide that type of support. If you are doing that, you are providing the perfect example for your children as they grow into adulthood. Because if they see you doing the work, guess what they're going to do? Be like, huh. At first, it'd be like, I don't know what my mom and dad are doing, some woo shit. I don't know. They're like meditating and journaling, and I don't know. They're entrusting something with this Paige and this David dude, and I don't know what's going on. And that's okay. All right. So those are the stages of parenting. All right. And we have some journaling to do, friends. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to actually shut my mouth for a little while and allow you to journal. So I invite you to take out your journals, pieces of paper, stone template. I don't know, stone template, David. Your journal, pen, paper, whatever you have. And we're going to give you some time here, several minutes, to consider answers to these questions that we have. And we begin with this first question, and we often say this, often. And those of you that are on the call who are clients of Daring Deeply, you'll recognize this very quickly, is we're always encouraging and challenging to ask the question, why? Why are you at that job? Why are you in love with that person? Why do you live in that house? Why did you do that? Oftentimes, we don't ever ask this question, right? I was working with one of our clients several months ago, and I said, why do you want a relationship with your mother? And she looked at me and thought, what? Well, because she's my mom. I said, are you sure? She's like, can you ask me that? I'm like, I just did. Right? So why is your relationship with your kids or bonus kids, okay, whatever your situation is, why is it important to you? This may be the first time you've ever answered that question. And so whatever the answer is, it's okay. Whatever it is. Secondly, what stage are you currently with your children? And we might, and Paige, you may have already done this, but if we can put that in the chat, the stages, so I don't have to go back to, yeah, thank you. To remind everyone. How are you currently expressing yourself as a parent? And by the way, as I'm reading these, if you want to go ahead and dive in, you don't have to wait for me to read them. So give you plenty of space and time. How are you currently expressing yourself as a parent? What actions will you take to level up within your current stage? Where are you right now? What stage? Imagine your ideal relationship with your kids. What do you see? It may be now. Like, you know what? I think it's pretty freaking good right now. Okay, cool. Why? How are you holding back your current relationship with your children? How are you holding back maybe something that's preventing that idealized relationship with your kids? And we're always about action here at Daring Deeply. What will you begin today to reshape and reframe your relationship with your kids? There may be a hard conversation that needs to happen with your kids. There may need to be an apology to one of your kids. Maybe an apology to your spouse regarding the kids, former spouse. And then lastly, how will this new reshaping of your relationship with your kids change you and them? Okay. How much time, Paigey?
We could take 6 to 8 minutes. How about
Awesome. Awesome. All right. We will let you do that. take another 90 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's all come back. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everyone's lovely faces, a little bit bolder, a little bit brighter. So those of you familiar with our format, what we'll do now is, if you're open to share any part of what you have journaled about, again, whatever you're open to share. So there's absolutely no pressure to do so. Sometimes our thoughts are our thoughts, and they're to remain that at the same time. At the other side of my mouth, I always say too, that sometimes within us, within our body, we feel convicted and challenged to say something, right? Which can make it reality. And sometimes we need to share, especially in a co-regulating space like this, where we have community and other people to hear. Because you never know what may come out of us can help inspire, motivate, provide a level of support that they may have not received. So, all that to say, who would like to share? What was most impactful? What do you think based on those questions?
I can share real quick. This is just, I don't know, I think each stage is the most fun stage of parenting. It's like, I love the stage that he's in, and I just don't go, oh, like, I miss him. I want him little, like, forever. And I'm like, no, I love it. He's 21 now. And I mean, he's just an incredible kid, adult, child, person, like, he's all the beautiful things. And just the other night, I was moving some things, and I have his buddies that he grew up with helping me move. And I tell you what, I would go to pick up something, and my son was like, no, Ma, I got this. You're not lifting a thing right now. And I was like, I love you. And then they were all in my salon, and they were belching and cussing and like doing their kid stuff. And I was like, this is just like it was when, I had them in my home. I was the house that they would come to, and I just loved it. Like, all the testosterone just was blowing up everywhere, and it just made my heart so happy. So being in that stage of being able to have these conversations with my son now is pretty pretty intense and pretty incredible, to be able to go, okay, I did some things right. I did some things that were healthy. His dad and I both, we co-parented well together. And so being able to, like, when he comes to me to ask a question, because he has a lot to say right now, and a lot of opinions and all those things. And so he will still ask for advice, and he loves that I am able to hear where he's coming from and what he has to say. So thank you, Paige, for sending that. The leader stage is just really it's a blessing beyond anything I could ever imagine. And I just truly love this stage, and it's been a blast. And of course, the teenage years, my favorite, because I could not wait until my kid was a teenager, and being able to walk through with that. And even just the other day, he was like, "Thank you, Mom, so much for just being real and allowing me to ask questions and being able to, even though we may disagree on something, it's okay. It's all right." So yeah, it's a fun stage.
I have a question, Shauna, if you're open to it.
Always, yes.
What do you see as moving forward, where your relationship has space to grow, develop, deepen?
Oh
And if
gosh,
you don't,
it's always going deep. Just always the openness to have the conversations, the tough ones. You know, I had a dream one time, and he was getting ready to turn 13. And I thought he was going to die. It was like one of those vivid, like, I'm going to lose my son. And I really had to like work through that and go, he's mine for a little while. We train him up to where he's supposed to be, and whoever he is, whoever he's supposed to be. And I'm like, I could lose him in any moment. And so going through that stage and letting go at that age, and, you know, just not letting him go to, you know, do whatever he wanted to do, but to let him know that he's resting in somebody's hands that is way bigger than me. And that gave me a peace that I was like, okay, you know, he could be physically gone tomorrow. He could be physically gone when he's 98. And so just embracing each moment and being curious always, and being there for him in whatever capacity that we are both comfortable with. And there were a few times even when he was like, "Mom, you don't have to be here for every practice." And I said, "Oh, okay." Like, he gave me permission to go. And his dad was really good about that. And so kind of hearing it from both of them, it was like, oh, okay, well, that works. I know he's in a good space. So, and it's still just continuously learning to let go. And that was one of the things I said was love, respect, leadership, letting go, still loving, and it's a circle of life. And each stage is like that. I don't know, it's just kind of that ebb and flow to be able to love and let go.
beautiful. Thank you, Shauna.
Thank you.
Hi, Courtney. I see a little one.
That's why I was like, I'm not even going to bother with the video because I've got 3 little ones running
Oh
around.
my goodness. We're so glad to see you. How old is this one?
She's 2.
She is 2. Beautiful.
You wanna
Beautiful.
move?
Hello, what's her name?
Caroline.
Caroline. Hi, Caroline.
She's getting ready for bed.
Oh, yay. We don't scare. Yeah. Well, yeah. So good to see you. So glad you were able to jump on.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you want to, since you're here? Is there anything you'd like to share?
No, I'm just, all of my stuff had to do with just the insanity and the chaos of lots of young ones. This is my oldest. He is 5.
What's your
And
name, buddy?
Bentley.
What is it?
he's showing you like
I'm Bentley.
You're Bentley. You're Bentley?
Bentley.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Come on in, family. Come on in, fam. Come on.
This
Yeah.
is Legos.
Yeah.
You see the Legos. That is awesome. I love it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
Mom. I have no idea, Mom, what you're talking about. What do you mean? Hands full. I don't know.
Legos.
So
Oh,
on top of being glad to get to just listen, it's also nice to think that I could glean some wisdom from parents who have been through this stage. They're on the
absolutely.
other side of it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, for
I'm
sure.
just exhausted all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. I totally get it. And let me offer this. I've never been a mom, never will be. At the same time, and it looks like it's about the same. When I was a young parent, I had had 3 under the age of 4. So I don't know if that's sort of kind of where, yeah. So I can relate, certainly, in some ways, but I can see you have your arms full, and congratulations and thank you for being here. Because I know that's not easy to do. You got 3 just trying to get to bed and all that kind of stuff. So, and you have access, by the way, you'll have access to this recording. So you can go back and rewatch and all that kind of stuff too. Cause you're like, I got half of that, I think maybe. So we're so glad you're here. So glad that Chrissy was providing that invitation to you. So,
thank you.
oh my gosh, I just want to squeeze those cheeks. It's been so long.
If I disappear again, it's because something,
I
time.
totally understand. Totally get it. It's so good to meet you. So good to see your face. I love everybody has a smile on your face right now. It's like, because some of us are like, man, it's been a long time since we had ones that small. Beautiful. It's beautiful. All right. Who else would like to share something they gleaned from the journaling session? Something that feels convicting to share. All right, John, I'm going to call you out, brother. That's right. I'm going to
I
call
was
you
just
out,
about to
brother.
trigger. So
Uh-huh.
I think the one that really resonated with me was how are you currently expressing yourself as a parent? Because I think there's one way in which I think I'm being expressed, right? Or I want to be, and there's another way of how they perceive me, right? So I was really trying to channel into how I want them to perceive me. So yeah, I think, and that would be someone who's, open-minded, working on myself, sort of in showing them this and communicating how I'm going about it, not just doing it in a cocoon, but, more open communication.
Beautiful. Yeah. So if they were on the call, John,
Mhm.
and you weren't in the room, what would they say?
They would say, right now, they would say, Dad is weird because he's talking a lot about emotions lately and something that's all new. But because it's all new, I just keep saying it and talking about feelings and expressing it. But my daughter, who's 14, would definitely say, Dad, you're weird. You're not a therapist. That's how she's receiving it today.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And how you're receiving that here in this moment. You're like, you know what? My daughter thinks I'm weird, and that's okay.
Right. That's
Yeah.
fine with me. If she thinks I'm a therapist, hey, that's fine with me.
It's a compliment, right? As a coach. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Thank you, John. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing. Beautiful. Who else would like to share something that's maybe a surprise, maybe something you didn't know? Yes, Paula. Please.
I realized that I'm still mad at my mom.
Mm.
I got like tears welled up as I was journaling a little bit. And I love my mom tremendously. She's 88. The weekend was a little challenging because she was having a lot of pain with her teeth. And so I noticed I was short with her. But I have a fair amount of work to do, I think, on that.
Yeah, I feel that.
So
Anyone else relate with Paula? Anybody else? Something comes out with your parents during this? Like, where you're like, oh wait, I thought we were talking about my kids. Oh, yeah. Mhm. Paula, so I have a follow-up question if you're open to it and whatever
Okay.
you're open to share.
Sure.
Was there anything specific that came out that said, this is why I'm angry?
It's pretty deep. Actually, it's kind of a deep emotional bondage sort of thing. I don't think she was actually able to be there to see me for who I was. I'm going to be 65, so I grew up in a family where it was the first type of parenting that you talked about. The, the parent focused, where, children should be seen and not heard. Although they let us talk some, but there were no rules. And I can remember even as a teenager saying, I have feelings and opinions too. and having them just look at me like that was so surprising. And saying once to my mom, Mom, I don't think like you. I can remember hopping up on the kitchen counter and saying that to her, and she just looked so shocked. Like, I don't think like her,
Mhm. Yeah.
So, I don't know, I don't think I've ever really done I've done a lot of journaling over the years and a tremendous amount of therapy, but I don't know that I ever really focused in on this parenting piece. So it's good information. I really just need to kind of sift through it a little more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's huge. It's a huge awareness. Huge awareness. That's why
And
it's so important. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
And the comparison between my mother and my father. So my father was emotional person, but not weak emotions. I only ever saw him cry when my grandmother died. But other than that, he pushed me real hard on the swings once and I fell off and he said, "Get up and quit crying," that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so seeing the two, looking at their relationship and the two ways they were with me, I have some work to do there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Who can relate to Paula? Is you're sitting here going, I think I have some work to do. Like both hands, toes. Yeah. And that is the perfect place to be. That is the perfect place to be. Yeah. I love it when John's daughter says, I think you're a therapist. Ew. Like, oh, yeah. Therapy's cool. Coaching's badass. Yeah, Paula, go.
When I was trying to decide what I was going to do as a junior and senior in high school, I wanted to be a doctor. And of course I was told girls couldn't be doctors. So then I told her I wanted to be a therapist. And her response was, well, how are you going to ever make any money doing that? And I have looked at that over the years and realized that that was one of the most threatening things for the family, was to actually, and I was kind of the black sheep, because my mother used to tell me I had to learn how to be more tactful, because I would just say the things that I saw. And and I now live, of course, 1,200 miles away.
Not an accident.
No. And I go home a lot, and I've learned how to be with them and accept them for who they are, and not expect them to change.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But the therapist thing, it was good.
Yeah. And I've said this 1,000 times and I'll say it 1,000,000 more. Hurt people. And, mom's expression of, you can't be a doctor, or how are you going to make money at this, is her expression of her wanting so much more for herself, potentially, and not being able to have that realized, having her mother tell her the same thing. Yeah. And so the generational trauma continues, down the road. So thank you, Paula, so much. Beautiful, beautiful soul. Y'all feel that? Y'all feel so much. And I think I saw Shauna put in the chat, so much wisdom. Paula, you have so much wisdom to share. And I love your vulnerability to say, I got work to do. Yeah. And know that you're in a safe space. I think I saw Paige say that in the chat too. You're in a very safe space here. So love having you here tonight. So let's see, how are we doing on time? We have another share. I feel like one more share, and then I've got, yes, Martha Allen, MA, go girl.
Okay, so what stage am I in as a parent? As a parent, I'm in the sage stage. My children are all grown, and I just wanted to share because during this call, my daughter calls me. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. But anyway, so I went off camera for a few minutes because she called me, and I said, "Oh, could you call me back? I'm in a Zoom meeting right now." She's like, "Why are you having a Zoom meeting at night? I said, oh, I told you, I'm seeing a person that's helping me with relationships, and once a month we have a group thing. And so tonight's the night. She's like, oh, well, I'll keep it short though then. But anyway, so she was calling to ask, as a mother, asking a favor from me, which, wait a second. Why are children important to me? Why are my children important to me? Because they are my kids. And I know that's not a good reason, but so she was asking a favor of me. And of course, as a mother, I said yes. And I shouldn't say, of course, that's just my automatic response. But anyway, so she called to ask a favor of me. And I'm like, let me check my calendar. Oh, and I'm thinking internally, oh crap, that's going to mess me up. I have to rearrange a lot of stuff to accommodate her. But as a mom, I'm going to do it and not tell her that I had to rearrange stuff, which I know. I wasn't listening to you, David. To listen.
Now, if you wouldn't have taken the phone call, Boundary, then you wouldn't have been asked. And then, oh, okay. All right.
Right. I know.
No,
I
I
know.
totally get it.
So,
I totally get it.
but
Doesn't it feel good to have your child ask for something?
yes, and it wasn't like a horrible
yeah.
thing. She's coming to visit me, and she just wanted to know if the weekend was going to work for me. I'm like, oh, sure. I had to-
As you move 47 things around.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. We'll get into boundary conversations, at some point. Yeah. Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Martha, for sharing that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Well, I know we're getting close. I have one more thing to share. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. So there's our questions. And by the way, before we leave this slide, I would invite you to return to these questions often, right? Especially the first one. And I would challenge, and Martha's used to this because we work together one-on-one. But she's used to me pushing back and saying, I'm going to invite you to consider more to the answer there, Martha, is why is the relationship with your kids important? Is to see what is beyond, well, they're my kids. I get that. But why is it important with that particular child? Why now? Those types of questions too. But to return to these questions, I think is really, really, really important. Because if we are here to grow, if we are here to develop, if we are here to transform, if we are here to ultimately heal, right, so that we can be the example for our children in whatever stage that they're in. Okay. All right. So I have some final thoughts. Some of this I alluded to, but I want to leave these with some punch to say, boom, y'all. Okay. Remember, your kids are not your clones. They are unique. And if they don't follow in your footsteps, it's okay. Okay. They are not little yous, right? Your kids' actions, behaviors, life decisions are not a direct reflection of your value and worth. I will say that again. Your kids' actions, behaviors, and life decisions are not a direct reflection of your value and worth. If your child makes a poor decision, that doesn't mean you're a shitty ass parent. Okay. That means they made a poor decision. And that's all. Right? This goes back to your worth and your value is yours. Okay. If your spouse makes a shitty ass decision, same thing. If your child, your boss, your sister, your mother, okay. Every kid is different. Okay. Those of you that have multiples can probably relate to this. I used to think when I was a young dad, I'm like, why won't they all just be parented the same way? This would be so much easier. Henry Ford was right. It should be an assembly line. Now get in line, let's go. Now I never took it as far, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I never took it as far as like, why don't you act like your brother? That's devastatingly traumatic. I certainly have heard that. I didn't necessarily do that, but not the perfect parent by any means. But every kid is different. Every soul is different. And we need to treat them accordingly. And that's not easy at all. It is so much easier to give all the kids all the stuff, none of the stuff, the same stuff, and be fair. But the adage is true. Life is not fair. It's just true. It's just true. Number 4, it's okay to have your favorite kid. What? I get to have my favorite kid? Yeah, you do. Okay, because you do. You already do. So if you have multiple children in your life, it's okay. Shauna's like, I got one. He's my favorite, and I got no problems with that. So, but if you have multiple children or multiple grandchildren, it's okay. I give you permission. Okay. You can write letters. That's fine. It's okay to have your favorite kid. What's not okay is to practice favoritism. I will share with you about 18 months ago, my 3 children had a conversation in front of me where they're like, you know, Skylar, the other 2 said, you know, Skylar, your mom's favorite. And I mean, it was a 22-minute conversation back and forth, like, no, you're the no, you're the no. So they already know. Okay. They already know. What's important to say is it's okay to be there. It's okay to feel. You're going to relate to your children differently. There are going to be characteristics that you align with more so than other kids, and that's okay. Okay. But just to know the ones that you're not necessarily aligning with in the moment, for them to know that you are all in with them too. Okay. And by the way, the favoritism can shift. Have you seen this? Have you felt this as a parent? We're like, oh, you're my favorite now this year. Because the other one is driving me batshit crazy. Oh, by the way, I didn't put this. I probably should put this in there. Don't gossip. Don't gossip ever. Okay. But don't gossip with one kid about the other kid. Okay. Not good. Not healthy. Okay. And lastly, it's your job as the parent to lead the relationship with your kid with mature boundaries. Do not wait for your children to reach out to you. Okay. And when I say it's your job to lead, it's not your job to be codependent. It's not your job to chase them. Okay. If they want to be left alone for a season of life, you leave them alone. But you continually reach out and say, hey, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here when you need me. Love you. Cool. Awesome. All right. I know we're 3 minutes over. Thank you so much. Jump off. Totally respect that. This is the last thing that I'll say. Maybe. No, it is. Next month, Paige Stewart is back. She's here now, but she'll be back teaching, and she'll be leading our next workshop on the 11th of April. Conflict. Talk about fair. She's going to talk about conflict. She's going to talk about fighting. In all relationships, fighting with your kids. Fighting with your spouse. Fighting with the people you work with. Doing it. What's important is the level and maturity of a relationship is determined by how you fight. Okay. I'm going to say that again. The maturity and the enlightenment of your relationships is determined by how you fight. Not if you fight, how you do. Okay. And Paige is going to dive into all of that next month. So we'll have registration open for that here this next week. So that's on April 11th, a month from now. Conflict, how to fight fair. I love that picture of you, baby. I'm just gonna. Oh wait, we're still on. Oh, is this being recorded? All right. So before we fall back into love over Zoom, I'm gonna stop sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being on tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope it's been valuable. Yes. How was today? Good. Awesome. Awesome. So, you got anything else, Paige? Any other announcements or?
I'm good. That was fantastic. You nailed it.
Balloon animals. Thank you, honey.
None tonight.
None tonight. This is why she's the funny one. None tonight. That's true humor right there. All right. Thank you, friends, so much. Love seeing your smiles. Thanks for leaning in. Thanks for the questions and sharing. And we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.